Hi, welcome to Project Geospatial. I am Adam Simmons, and back on the industry limelight, we have the pleasure of talking with Piers Dormeyer of Eagleview. You're the CEO of Eagleview, but before we talk about the company, I would like to understand who you are and how you got involved with the industry. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Adam, for having me on. Excited to be here. Yes, Piers, guilty as charged. My journey to Eagleview was interesting. I've always been a little bit of a tech geek, really interested in maps and geography and science of all stripes. And so I was an engineer out of college, and I found myself in all places in construction in the roofing industry. And so I spent some years in manufacturing, made a lot of great friends working on that side of the business, and in that business, obviously catastrophes, natural disasters, usually in the form of hurricanes, but also tornadoes, hailstorms, or something that I got really had a lot of experience understanding, not just sort of how that affects the people that are impacted, but also all the challenges around supply chain and all the different aspects from insurance to government that has to kind of work together to restore those areas that are impacted. So I joined that industry right around Hurricane Charlie, 2003 timeframe. So I spent a few years in that world, and some years later, I ran into Eagleview, and Eagleview was just a startup at the time, and essentially what this company was doing was they found a way to extract high precision 3D wireframe, 3D models from 2D imagery. So I was just fascinated by this idea that you could go and effectively take things like, be able to extract things like measurements down to fractions of an inch from pictures. When I'm used to hearing these horror stories of people falling off roofs because they're trying to get up there and throw a tape measure around or pop chalk lines on a roof. So I really started that simple, and I just wanted to know more. And in that time, I was actually focused on building software for that nexus, for that insurance construction nexus, where you always had a homeowner in the middle, and you're trying to deal with claims and resolving claims and getting estimates and finding contractors. And I just thought, man, what a awesome way to eliminate fraud, eliminate potentially conflicts between contractors and carriers, and just speed up the process of restoring a homeowner back to the condition before the event.
So let's talk about that a little bit more, diving a little bit more about who Eagle Vision is, the overview per se, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a general sense of what the company's products and services are overall? You sort of touched on that.
Absolutely.
So is it just damage assessment, or do you go a lot deeper into helping the customers understand, how they can recover?
Yeah, so we're in the we do much more than just damage assessment. Eagleview's in the business of capturing aerial imagery, processing that data, creating those ortho mosaics, and building data products from that that large proprietary data set. Where we're unique is we really focus on very high resolution use cases, derivative data products. We try to focus on those use cases that require high res obliques. And we find that ability to capture that high res oblique enables you to just impact so many workflows in a really important way. So you're seeing the whole structure, you're seeing all the elevations of a property. You're able to handle vegetation management, for example, much more effectively with that level of resolution. So no, we do a lot more. We focus. We really, our business is focused heavily on government, insurance, construction, infrastructure. are kind of our main verticals, and we're very fit for purpose. So the business really, when we go into a specific market with our products, we heavily invest in those markets, those use cases, and ultimately deploy sensor technology, drones, airplanes, and then all of the machine learning and data extraction that you'd expect in order to solve workflow problems specific to those areas.
Are all the collection assets actually yours, or do you outsource it to collect the data, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, all of the camera technology and the sensor tech is all 100% ours. And then in terms of how we fly, yeah, we own and operate a large number of aircraft, but we definitely have a mixed model. We have some contractors that fly for us, but they're always flying our equipment.
Well, great. Let's talk about some of the use cases, right? Or at least some of the stories that have involved. Can you talk about what's come out of some of the most recent hurricanes, some of the most devastating in recent history? What has been your impact, and what's come out of that?
Yeah. The obviously responding to these catastrophes is really a core part of what we do, and it's not just the hurricanes, but the hurricanes certainly test us, because they're just so. I mean, the level of damage, generally the size of the areas affected, the lack of power, they become very, very challenging. So yeah, we've most recently, obviously, Hurricane Milton. And right before that, Hurricane Helene were massive efforts for what we call our disaster response program, our DRP program, and that is it's like Eagleview operations, kind of special forces. So the whole process really starts, way before we see a storm, making landfall. So we've got meteorologists, we've got lots of different operational people that are kind of looking at multiple scenarios, trying to kind of ascertain, where are we going to hit, what is the operational environment going to look like. We plan contingencies around when the airspace is going to be safe and clear, where we're going to need to go in, if we're going to pre-position drones and personnel in places so that we can get on site. And then fundamentally, we're capturing that imagery as soon as possible in those planes and drones. We're processing them extremely quickly so that we can get that data in the hands of generally at first folks getting is going to be your public safety people, and we're going to be identifying things like power lines that are down, trees blocking roads, things that are just dangerous to people, and ultimately that will inhibit those first responders from getting to where they need to get to.
As far as the timeline for getting this workflow accomplished during some of these events, are you actively? I know there's probably a lot of prep work that you anticipate working into an event environment. Are you sending these assets up during the hurricane and recording the damage as it happens? I mean, obviously, a hurricane or a disaster like that is it can linger for days sometimes, but these people are in need right now, obviously, when the damage occurs. How soon do you get started on some of that work? Do you wait for the disaster's over? How's that workflow work?
No, and this is one of those things that the whole response program has certainly evolved over time. And keep in mind, we're talking about hurricanes, and I'll talk a little bit more about the Milton response, for example. But every disaster response is a little different. I mean, we operate post wildfire. We operate post tornadoes. Tornadoes, you don't have a lot of notice. You don't have a lot of notice, when they're going to pop up, how bad they're going to be. Sometimes you have 20 minutes notice. So scrambling assets into one of those areas can be a little bit more challenging. When you have something like a hurricane, you generally have days to prepare so that we can get assets into theater. Generally, where we want to be is we want to keep those airplanes out of harm's way, but close enough that they can get into the area of interest just as quickly as possible. But we're also now able to deploy drones much closer to the landfall areas much faster. So in this particular storms, I mean, we were able to get drones in the area. I mean, gosh, before the streets were open, because we're able to fly in some cases beyond visual line of sight. and we're flying with, fixed wing drone systems and things like that in addition. So we were able to get underneath the clouds. We were capturing very, very high resolution imagery. We're talking like 1.5 centimeter imagery underneath the clouds, way before anyone else, any other aerial imagery companies got in there. And then as soon as we were doing that, as soon as the airspace starts to open up and the clouds start to recede, we'll then start bringing in other capture assets, other aircraft, and we're even flying. We're generally going to fly somewhere around 2.5 centimeters. So think 1 inch oblique and ortho resolution. So very, very high res in those affected areas, which is exactly what we did in Pinellas County.
Well, I don't want to linger the conversation too much on hurricanes because it sounds like you cover a lot of different disasters. What would you say is the strongest stories or best stories that you have that you feel like Eagleview's really made a difference in the industry, or for that matter, among your customers?
That's speaking about this particular use case. I'm proud, and I know a lot of folks at Eagleview are really proud that we do work that has a lot of meaning and frankly has saved lives by enabling people to get information that otherwise they'd need to go into harm's way in some cases to get. So some of the most impactful stories that we get are the ones that we never hear about because people are able to do their job without having to climb on a roof, for example. But I mean, when we were talking about the storm response in Helene, which was just horrifying up in the Carolinas, I mean, the stories that were coming back from our county customers about, how getting that imagery to them just enabled them to help their, help their neighbors so much faster. Those are the kind of things that really, fire us up and keep us going. And, the fires in Maui, that was one that was really tough. I mean, I know we did some great work over there, but just even looking at that imagery when it came out was heartbreaking.
Touching back on the technology piece just a little bit, I looked through your website a little bit before this interview and noticed that you were incorporating things like AI. Obviously, it's the latest buzzword and trend in the industry the last couple of years. How are you using artificial intelligence or even generative AI within your workflows these days?
Well, we've been using AI for a long, long time. So there's so many different use cases for AI and Gen AI, and then there's a lot of future use cases. But I mean, there's just within internal processes, even just things like as simple as image quality, managing image quality, identifying defects, correcting for defects. That's a great way to implement some of those models. When we start thinking of when we're starting to think about Gen AI, we've got certain programs that are actually able to help us kind of generate designs and help kind of generate. For example, energy performance on a solar roof is another area. But yeah, there's feature extraction, machine learning feature extraction, major part of what we do, really speeds up the process. We find that AI is just one of those things that can enable us to move much faster through some of the more mundane cleanup work so that then we can go right to the areas and do our own manual QC with humans, and we can just move a whole lot faster and still maintain this level of quality that we're known for.
Great. Well, what's next for Eagleview as you move forward in the next couple of years? What's the intended, what's your direction of growth?
So I mean, we're going in several different directions. Obviously, we do a lot in these core markets. We find that there's just so much opportunity with again, Gen AI, some of these new technologies doing more with that core set of data. But we're doubling down on high resolution aerial imagery, and we're bringing other modes of capture into the story too to solve new problems. There's areas that we haven't focused a lot of effort on developing from a go-to-market perspective that they're pushing into. So you're going to see us a lot in the telco space, more in infrastructure, property management, financial services. So you're going to start seeing a lot more of Eagleview in those areas, because frankly, anywhere that you're you're looking, you have a manual inspection workflow, chances are we can help with those challenges.
That's awesome. So is there anything I've left out? What is there anything that you want our audience to know that maybe most people don't understand about Eagleview, or maybe don't know? You can't seem to get customers to grasp we do these things as well. What would you say you want to ask folks to come to you for?
Oh man, this is such an awesome question. So one of our big challenges is that we never run out of things to do, and we're always interested in doing more. So what we love to hear from customers that come out of other areas, other industries, and ask us, hey, have you ever thought about doing this, or could you potentially help us with this problem with your imagery? We love to do those kind of research projects. We like to pilot things. We like to go and experiment ways to solve new problems. So yeah, I would just say reach out to us. You've got some ideas. If you're just interested in checking out what it is that we do, like to get access, we'd love to give you some access and hear what you're trying to do and see if we can help solve something for you.
That's perfect. And obviously people can go to your website to find out more information, but what would be your preferred method of depending on what kind of customer you are, whether that be government, commercial? Is there any specific way that you would recommend folks reaching out?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, I probably would regret this, but yeah, the website's great. There's contact us forms and all that good stuff. But you can also reach out to me directly in LinkedIn. And if you're just interested in reaching out and saying hi, just let me know what it is you're interested in a little bit, and then I'll be happy to follow up and make sure that we get you to the right people.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, giving us a overview of who Eagleview really is and the amazing work that you do in the community, making a difference in the disaster community especially, but also helping move the geospatial technology needle forward. Just once again, it's the world has changed quite a bit in the last 10 years, and it's impressive to see how much work companies like you really do. So thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.